Welcome back. We bring you the latest update on the disappearance and death of Nolan Wells. Stay tuned, like and subscribe.
And Javon, I want to come to you because, you're his friend. You were on the island on the 4th. You were on a different boat. Do you recall seeing him at all that day?
Yes, ma'am. I did see him when I was out there on the island.
Can you tell me what you saw? Does anything seem strange to you about the difference that people are saying of how he was separated from the group?
No, ma'am. I don't think that Nolan would say, "Hey, bro, I'm staying with this girl on the island."
On July 4th, a group of friends set out for Horn Island. By evening, the boat returned to the mainland, but one passenger was missing, Nolan Wells. 2 days later, Nolan was found. But in the weeks since, the timeline of his final hours has split into two vastly different realities. On one side is a story of a holiday gathering, an unexpected encounter, and a voluntary choice. The friends who traveled with Nolan maintain that nothing forced them to leave him behind. Their account has been consistent across weeks of separate interviews. Nolan met a young woman, decided to stay on the island, and planned to find another ride home later. In an investigation, a story that remains stable across multiple tellings demands attention. Consistency isn't proof, but it isn't something easily dismissed either. Except now, a second perspective has entered the public record. And it comes from the people who didn't just know Nolan for an afternoon, they knew him for a lifetime. Archival photos of Nolan, transitioning to dark, atmospheric waves crashing against the shore. Javon Williams, described as Nolan's closest friend, was actually on Horn Island that very afternoon. Though forced onto a different boat due to overcrowding, Javon saw Nolan just before the departures began. When Javon heard the official account, that Nolan voluntarily let his friends sail away while he stayed behind with someone he'd just met, he openly rejected it. To Javon, that narrative didn't just feel wrong, it broke every rule of their shared history. He pointed out a simple, repeated pattern. Whenever Nolan traveled with his crew, he left with his crew. In years of friendship, he had never known Nolan to break that rule. Even more troubling to Javon was a single, jarring detail. The claim that Nolan stayed behind on an island without even asking for his phone. That skepticism is echoed by Nolan's father, Elmore Wansley. Speaking independently, he raised the exact same concern. From childhood, Nolan was taught a fundamental safety rule. You travel as a group, you return as a group. Without coordinating their statements, a father and a best friend arrived at the exact same conclusion. The accepted story simply doesn't fit the man they knew. Motion graphics showing conflicting GPS digital pins over a dark grid map. Character habits, of course, are not direct eyewitness testimony. People can act unpredictably, but the doubts raised by Nolan's family don't stop at behavioral patterns. They extend directly into the physical evidence gathered on night one. Tashima Hans, Javon's mother, aided the search the evening Nolan went missing. What she describes adds a crucial, confusing layer to the digital timeline. As the family scrambled for answers, location data began to fracture. A tracking pin indicated one address, while activity linked to Nolan's Snapchat pointed somewhere else entirely. When Hans arrived at the location tied to the tracker, she reported a dark residence and an excruciating 15-minute delay before Nolan's phone was finally handed over. During those minutes, the explanation of who actually possessed the device repeatedly shifted, from inside a truck to a young woman retrieving it. A delay doesn't prove wrongdoing. Miscommunications happen, especially in moments of panic. But it leaves a documented gap in a timeline that investigators are still working to piece together. Montage of official documents, sealed envelopes, and distant shots of the shoreline at twilight. Add to this the unresolved elements surrounding the case. An independent medical examination that couldn't determine a definitive cause of death, unverified background audio from a distress call, and state forensic records that remain strictly sealed pending a grand jury. Legal analyst Nancy Grace recently highlighted these exact gaps, noting that while accidental scenarios remain fully possible, critical physical evidence remains shielded from public view. So where does that leave the record today? It leaves us with two narratives running parallel to one another. One built on the steady, repeated statements of the friends who were there. The other built on the deep, instinctual knowledge of a family who says the math just doesn't add up. Neither perspective alone resolves what happened on Horn Island. The ultimate answers won't come from online speculation or personal debate. They will come from the sealed digital forensics, toxicology reports, and official findings yet to be released. Until those files are opened, the facts remain narrow and the questions remain open.